everybody, and a warm welcome to Phil's Corner Live, the first one of 2023. As we're starting, I've just realised our chat window has disappeared. We had this problem before. Nothing like a technical difficulty to start the year. Let me see if I can fix that. 1 second. If not, I can still see your chat on my phone down here. But anyway, welcome. As I'm getting sorted, a bit out of practice. It's good to see you, and it's good to see you already, Andres, one of our long-time viewers, long-time followers. So good to see you, Andres. Says, hey, Phil, great to finally catch another one live. Great to have you. Great to have you, and great to be back for the Hot Wall. As we start. I've missed this. I've missed doing these live streams. As I said on a recent video, we'll be doing the Hot Wall and the eBay streams both again this year. And there'll be some slightly new things for the Hot Wall, as you may have seen on my little preview post I've just put on Twitter. And I mentioned earlier in the week that essentially we're also going to be tracking a brand's individual a brand's entire portfolio. So not just the individual shirts, but if a brand releases a lot of good shirts, we'll rank them on the tier list to get a view really of how a brand's doing. Because I think one of the things I enjoyed but didn't quite fully get a chance to realize last year was, as we were doing the shirts and ranking the shirts, it was one of those things where you kind of start to feel good or bad about a brand, but there wasn't an easy way to kind of digest that information. So we'll do that this year on the Hot Wall. Great to see you, Joe. Just hope you had a nice Christmas and New Year's. Same to you, Jay. Same to you. It was a good time. We were sort of dodging various illnesses across families, but no, it was good. We were able to have a long break, myself and my wife, so that was good. And I just says, have you got a chance to wear the rescue yet? Honestly, mate, it's still in the wardrobe. There's many shirts. There's a pile behind me. You can see a couple on the sofa there, including there's the Ballard FC and a recent eBay pickup, which was a Jacksonville Jaguars jersey. I've been a long-time fan of the Jags. Got excited during their playoff run this year. Bought a couple of shirts, or jerseys, I should say. Now, I'm just looking at this chat window. Still, it's not appearing. So let me just try and get it to work itself out. It's one of those things, guys, where honestly, I'm trying to remember how we got it working last time. I would hate to restart the stream. I think we've come too far. We've already got some viewers, so I won't do that. But hopefully by the next episode, it'll be back, or it might even figure itself out during the stream. Again, I have no idea why it's not working. I will just make sure I'm not missing anything really obvious. And again, chat box, yeah, it's there. Resource there. There's nothing. Honestly, nothing I can see. This is the problem with doing this live. I can't refresh browser and see because I have to. Let me try again. As I say, if it doesn't work, we will continue. I can still see you in the chat, and indeed, Ballum. Good to see you, Ballum. Says Phil Collins back. Phil's still in for Corner, and Chelsea playing Fulham didn't sign Phil. I was in Keighley, the other area near Leeds, and all staying with relative. Good stuff. Not far from me here in Huddersfield. Let's start indeed, Ballum. Let's start. So, guys, as I say, apologies for the lack of a chat window, but we will make do. We will figure it out. Let us get to the wall itself, and I'll just bring us up to the screen. So, that's not what we want. This is what we want. This is the Hot Wall with a few additions. And just quickly before we go into Anderson, we did have a good season. Lomas looks to be a stud for the years to come, hopefully. Honestly, it was just amazing to see the progress. Doug Pearson, incredible job he did. It was. I mean, we could talk about NFL for quite a while. I'm a big fan, and but maybe we'll talk as we go through. And just don't get me started. Doug Peterson should be coach of the year, that's for sure. Right, guys, the hot wall. A couple of fun new features. I started working on a logo. I don't think I've quite finished it. This was supposed to be a volcano in the middle. Not quite sure. I mean, it's not really giving off volcano vibes, is it? But I'm working on a little logo just for fun and nothing else for the hot wall. But you can see, just to help with the kind of progress throughout the year, I've named the tiers now properly, so you got a bit more. When I say candle tier, flames tier, ice cube tier, etc., that's what the tiers are. And this bar is a bit thicker because basically this is where we're going to stick the various brands. So I'll just show you what I'm thinking. If I just show you, so like we'll write in a brand, and again the text is quite small here. I may go for something a bit larger or smaller, but essentially, you know, as we start ranking Hummel shirts, for example, we'll just move this, like every shirt, we'll move this slider. Now, where it could become tricky is what I'm going to have to do is make sure I name these layers. So then, obviously, as we go through and we're ranking hundreds and hundreds of shirts, and there's like, you know, dozens and dozens of manufacturers, I think we'll be able to manage it. But essentially, at the end of the year, then we can say, okay, Hummel have had a great year. You know, Armani down here at the bottom, most probably. So that's just a fun feature. We'll have a load of brand names in there. I think names are going to be easier than logos, just to save time. I don't want to be faffing about trying to find PNGs of brand logos. But yeah, that's essentially my thinking alongside the shirts. And I think as crazy as it was, as busy as it was, we'll keep doing what we did before, which is create a little shirt. And yeah, we'll go from there. We're going to start from January. We're going to start from what I think, well, according to Football Shirt Culture, the site that we always reference, shout out to them. They're a great resource for new kits. Yeah, we're going to start basically from the earliest one this year based on this site. And of course, these are all, you know, a combination of current season, as in 23-24 season shirts, and late 22-23 shirts. Incheon United, though, will kick us off. And it's a degree, however, as a Pats fan, it does still hurt to talk about him since he and the Eagles beat us in the Super Bowl. They did. That was a classic Super Bowl for sure. Yeah, one of the more memorable ones of the modern era. Right, guys, let's go straight to it. Incheon United. Oh, I should say as we go, of course, if you haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe. Even though we haven't been super active over the last few weeks, Phil's Corner is very much continuing. We're going to have all sorts of videos coming up on the channel. And there is a Patreon as well, which has some benefits, which you can get involved in if you want to support me further. But that is all the details in the description for Patreon. And if you want to subscribe, there's a button right there for you to press. Your support means a lot, guys. Now, I'm going to say straight away, I really like checkerboard designs. I've kind of got a fondness for them. And honestly, that immediately has me kind of feeling quite good about this one. Now, I don't think the execution's, quite top drawer. I'm just going to make sure I name these folders. There we go. I think we've seen better examples of the execution, but overall, I do like. And let's see, how big do you want it? Yeah, that feels good. In fact, you know what I'm going to do, guys? Sorry, just for the sake of completeness. Now, this could be funny because it's going to take ages to load, isn't it? I probably should have done this before. I was going to say I should really, for reference, have the same size image as last time, because otherwise, even it being slightly bigger could ruin it. Tell you what, for the sake of let's come back to this screen. Good to see the chat window has finally woken up. There we go. It took a while, but it's there. Yeah, sorry guys, I should have done this before. Again, you can tell I'm out of practice. First one of the year, a few kinks to be ironed out. We will get there. Yeah, what I'm basically just making sure, and it sounds silly, but I want to get the size of those shirts the same as last year, because otherwise, well, one, then I can compare it a bit more nicely, and two, if I get it right now, I won't have to change it later on down the line. Let's have a chat for the next few minutes as my Photoshop loads. Again, I really apologise for not doing this sooner, but how have you been? How's your collecting going, guys? In the last kind of month, we've not really spoken really for a month, have we? Any good pickups at the start of the year? Have people kind of scaled back a bit? I tend to think this time of year is a bit of a quieter time of year. you kind of post Christmas, post Black Friday, even end of season sales are coming up, and of course that's a big time for collectors. I mean, having said that, a lot of people got involved with the Argentina restock. I saw that recently. But yeah, I'd love to hear if you picked up anything new. I myself, I don't think there's been a lot shirt-wise. I did find, and it's funny, completely kind of non-football related, but I stumbled across a collection, a Nike lifestyle collection, which I posted about on Twitter this morning, where Nike had done a kind of fantasy lifestyle collection. And being quite a big nerd, I had to pick up a couple of the t-shirts. There wasn't actually that many left, but I snagged a couple. So a couple of lifestyle items there, which just spoke to me. But yeah, love to hear how you get on. As I say, as soon as we can go back to the wall, we will. It's still loading, but we will be there before long. Just for the benefit of anyone who maybe hasn't seen my update video or my kind of projection video, essentially, guys, this year Phil's Corner will be continuing with the 2 streams, but we'll probably be doing 1 stream a week rather than 2. That's just to allow for a slightly greater workload, because I've picked up some new projects since the end of last year on the design side. So basically, I mean, it's still early days, but I'm going to be trying to design more shirts. Some of that's going to be paid work. Some of that is just kind of building up a portfolio. But I won't have quite as much time for. Oh, I just realized my music's been off. There we go. Now I hope that music. Let me know if that music's too loud, guys. I should have had that on already, but if that is too loud, please do let me know. I can scale it down. Yeah, so guys, that's kind of my plan. I want to be designing shirts. I want to be essentially in the next few years kind of properly breaking into the industry. It's going to take a lot of work, take a lot of time, but that's my plan. So let me know. Well, if there's any content I can provide related to that. I'm certainly planning to do some stuff through the Patreon. I've already done a bit through Patreon because there's some stuff I can't share here on YouTube for all to see. But yeah, essentially because of that, the streams will be scaling back slightly, but they're still going to be happening, and there's still going to be classic Phil's Corner videos. Again, I'm hoping I can get out a good number of them, but it will be one of those things where it might take a bit of time, but we will get there for sure. Andres says, any clubs that you think you might get involved with designing for in the future? So Andres, definitely. I mean, there's loads on my wish list. There's a few clubs which I'm kind of hoping I could be involved in, and I'm in discussions with various people, but nothing I can announce. But in terms of what I can say is that my work with Tour Sports, and that's they're a small manufacturer in Wales, but they've done some great stuff, notably working with Gus Sonkovic, the excellent concept kit designer who I'm basically going to be trying to learn from. I've essentially joined that team, and I mentioned this of course already on YouTube, but they work with a bunch of non-league teams in Wales, but they've done some really good stuff. They're not just your run-of-the-mill manufacturer. They've really excelled with a number of releases. So yeah, the plan is here we go. Photoshop is loading, so we are nearly there, guys. We're nearly back to the wall. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for those that have stuck around. Again, apologies. It's been a slow start to the stream as I get used to remind myself how to get back into this streaming business, and we are so close now. It's just buffering. Yeah, so Andreas, basically the plan is to get as many things under my belt as possible, and that one includes all sorts of good stuff. But I'm hoping, it sounds mad, but why not? If we could be working for a major manufacturer, in a few years, that'll be the dream. If not, I'll have some fun along the way. But kind of that's my main aim now. Is to just hit the ground running. Right, guys, we're back. Let me switch us over to the screen. So, again, for the sake of completeness, so you can see. There we go. Right, job's done. We are good to go. Incheon United. So, honestly, guys, I love checkerboards. That's my kind of just realised we have lost. There we go. Close my tab accidentally. Inch United. I like checkerboards. I actually think this one is a kind of low flames tier for me, and I think the reason for that, I'm a bit of a sucker for checkerboards. It's an interesting way that the way they've aligned it so that you kind of get this sort of double effect. I honestly don't mind that. I think, you know, I'd like to see if it goes on the back, and I can't see. But overall, the collar style is fine. Macron collars can be a bit funny, but you know, that's not bad. I'm going to sneak it into the flames tier. I feel pretty good about that one. For our opener, and then if we rank the away now, it's obviously very similar. I think I do prefer the home, the blue and black, but this is a very solid away, and of course there's something pleasing about having the same design on a home and away. It's kind of a lesser done thing in 2023, or certainly in the last year. So I think overall I would rank this slightly behind. I'd nudge it in to the Canal tier, but we'll put it somewhere higher. Incidentally, you can see my shirt of the year, the Volcano shirt, is our background for this year's Hot Wall. Good evening, says Testy Bites. Good evening. Welcome to the stream. It's early afternoon here in the UK, and indeed, wherever you're watching, whether it's morning for you, late, whatever it is, good to have you along for the journey. That's Inch United. A decent start. Inch United of the K-League. Let's see what else we can find. And indeed, we're going to keep going, guys. We're going to keep going to about 4 o'clock. So, of course, and I should say this for anyone who's new, chuck in anything in chat that you want to discuss. Any disagreements or agreements with my rankings. It's always good to hear. Incidentally, we should get our brand watch going as well. So, Macron. Now, I'm not going to kind of do it too mathematically, in that, of course, if I was going to be really smart, I could do things like, you know, basically find the kind of catchment area or the kind of range, and then do, okay, let's stick them in the middle. But that could get messy, especially it will be much harder when you have, you know, lots and lots of shirts. But overall, I can say, you know, quite comfortably from these two shirts, that makes you feel like Macron are kind of, you know, hovering around the flames kind of tier territory. And of course, again, we'll slide this up and down as the shirts roll in. But you know, a solid start for Macron. They of course have a huge portfolio, so they'll be bringing a lot to the table. I mean, already there's another Macron shirt, so let's see. Mornay, you are here for episode 1. All you guys are here for the start of the year. Good to have you, Mornay. Hope you're well. Yeah, 2023. We're going to be doing some good stuff here. Yeah, we're back with a tweaked, a slightly improved Hot Wall. Let's continue with Santiago Wonders. Now, this is kind of funny because it's almost a bit of a checkerboard effect. Again, you know, it's not quite checkerboard, but you know, two completely different countries here. We're over in Chile now, but kind of a slightly similar, vaguely similar aesthetic. I actually much prefer this kind of collar style. It's a bit more no nonsense, and I like what I see. I think, you know, looking at the home first, the green version here. If we just take this over to Photoshop, that's the wrong key. There we go. The first thing immediately which I want to point out is that you've got the pattern. It goes on the sleeves, and that's a subtle thing, but it really makes a difference. And it looks to go on the back as well. And again, you can't quite see the full back. Oh, here we go. Yeah, so that is an immediate plus point. I mean, automatically, guys, I think this has a lot about it. Now, if we look at the pattern itself, the execution, I think the kind of gradient between them there, I don't mind it. Honestly, the overall effect I think is pretty good. I actually think this is Flames tier territory, and probably higher than the Incheon shirt. I think I do prefer the collar again. Looks like Macron seem to be rolling with that style which they had last year, at least for these guys. That's fine. So overall, really like that. I think that's kind of low to mid Flames is where I'm landing. I think the pattern going in the back is a big part of that. Probably the only kind of main thing, and this is more of a club thing than anything else, I don't love that shady green, but of course the club colours, so you know, we're not going to penalise them too much for that. No, overall, I think this is good. I'll happily stick it kind of around here. A decent shirt. I would rank the away lower. I think again, and I talk a lot about gradients. I kind of have a love-hate relationship with them. I think sometimes they do look great. This one's interesting because there is actually this kind of very subtle V pattern here in the white portion, and that helps kind of transition from the white to the pattern. I think because there's that consistency, and it is interesting the way that the kind of chevron geometric pattern. Again, very dark green to a kind of complete fade. I think I would rather this was a solid colour than to fade into white. But it's again in this kind of territory. We're looking again at something which is high candle, low flames. I think it does look good. Incidentally, you can see on here that colour difference isn't quite as stark as it is on the marketing pictures. So that's a bit sneaky there. But no, this is good. I mean, I can safely say that these two shirts are even better for me than the Incheon United ones. So a good start for Macron. We're very early days, week 1, 2 clubs in. This has me honestly on defence for the Flames tier. I'll put it here. I'll put it just either side of the border. But broadly speaking, let's bump Macron up a bit. And again, we've just got them here. Let's stick them up a little bit more. So that is. Again, this will slide up and down, but a good start for Macron, that's for sure. Yeah, I think there's lots to like. The stars do help fill out that gap as well behind on the back neck there. Very nice. And just says we renew the dream, and also the skin is what's written on their marketing. Interesting, very interesting. There you go. There you go. That's good to know. Thank you for that. Shonan Belmar, a club who have a very distinctive colour scheme. The lime green, the bright green, and the kind of very true blue. It's a rare combo, at least in this sort of style, or these sorts of shades, I should say. Green and blue you do see, but this kind of combo is very, very Shonan. This as well is our first shirt from the manufacturer. Penalty have been around for quite a bit. They've done a lot of work in Japan and Brazil. That tends to be their main stomping grounds. This is an interesting one. I think immediately because of the pattern, because of the colours, it has an identity. And I will say as well that small things, but we've got the pattern on the back. That really helps. I'm going to say it because it is still an important factor. It helps separate good shirts from great shirts. However, obviously the sponsors are a big talking point, and this is the thing with a lot of J League clubs. Personally, I don't necessarily hate a lot of sponsors in this style because there is a novelty factor, but sometimes it is just ugly, and I think this, sadly, because of the aesthetic of that, particularly that sponsor there on the left, top left, that is really bad. There's a fine line between novelty factor and just straight up eyesore. Both of them are particularly bad, but that one on the left is an absolute shocker. Now, because I actually think the shirt itself has a lot about it. There's a really nice looking jock tag detail there, which again is a good feature. So it's a mixed bag, but because I think largely because of that distinctive colour scheme, it does help it from kind of mediocrity in my eyes, despite the undoubtedly ugly collarbone sponsors. And incidentally, a lot of J League clubs, based on the early releases we've seen this year, multiple J League clubs have switched to much more kind of subtle collarbone sponsors without backgrounds like this, and we'll see that on some upcoming releases. So unfortunately, there's a few things keeping this one from the kind of Flames tier, but I would still, despite the kind of issues, put it somewhere relatively high in the candle tier. Like I'm actually thinking around here, which might be surprising because again, those sponsors are really, really, really difficult to get over. And of course, now we can rank penalty. So let's get penalty here, and we'll put them. Obviously they've only had one shirt so far. We'll put them here. We'll track penalty as we go through the year. So that's penalty. Yeah, Mornay saying, Macron impressed me in recent times. Yeah, I think Macron strike a really good balance within that kind of tier that they're in. You know, outside of the big names, your Nike, your Adidas, your Pumas, they are undoubtedly one of the better manufacturers. You know, they bring a lot to the table. They've got a lot of kind of their material quality is really good, and they tend to do bespoke design. So there's a lot of good things going for them, and they have a really good portfolio, a lot of good teams in their roster. So yeah, they're always up there. I should say, guys, let me know if the music is a good volume, because I've only just turned it back on. I hope it is good. If it's too quiet or too loud, let me know. I don't want it to be dominating too much. But good to see a number of you here. Welcome to Phil's Corner, guys. Welcome. Okay, I think we're back. My streaming software died. I do apologise. Yeah, guys, that was frustrating timing, and we had a good number of viewers as well, but that's okay. Liam, thank you for that message, mate. And yeah, it says I dropped by from first stream in a while, and it's gone down. Indeed, indeed. Oh dear. Yeah, let's get back to the wall. If I just let me just make sure that's closed. So as I say, guys, apologies for those technical difficulties. That was a bit of an annoying experience on my side as well. I'll just make sure I bring up everything I need to on here. So I think, where were we? We were talking about Kappa, weren't we? We were talking about Depor Lacarunia special edition shirt. So that's there. Just about in the Flames tier. Again, guys, welcome. Brock, thank you. Yeah, don't know what happened there, but we're back. I think it was the problem with my streaming software. It just crashed, but my internet seems to be fine. We will continue. So that's Depor. As I say, it'll be interesting how many kind of monotone shirts we get this year. That was, of course, a big trend, as it has been now for a little while. We're not going to do pre-match shirts, so we'll skip over this interesting Bayern shirt. Yeah, we will stick, as we said before, to home, away, and third, or special edition shirts. But there's much more to come, guys. Let's go to Kawasaki Frontale. I don't know how you say the name. This is Puma, and Puma adopting a kind of vaguely Man City away aesthetic with a diagonal stripes. It is a shame to see a plain back. These things happen, of course, but I would say certainly, you know, that's a small point of deduction. Typically speaking, I do like this style. It's a very simple neckline, but you know, we've seen that on a lot of shirts, but it works. And you can see what I was saying before. Certainly on the front collarbone sponsors, you can see you've just got the text, and that does actually add a lot to the kind of overall aesthetic. That looks really, really sharp there. On the back, the sponsors are in the more typical kind of format, and you've got, honestly, the overall effect of this shirt I think is quite strong, despite not having the stripes on the back. It is interesting, and Puma have done this particularly, where they've kind of kept the pattern element restricted into sort of like a central column. I honestly don't mind that. I do think this shirt looks quite good. I must say. Yeah, despite the plain back, this to me is actually a sneakily very good shirt, and dare I say it, I would probably put this above the other shirts we've ranked so far today. That's how much I like it. I do actually think this one has something about it. So that is the Kawasaki Frontale home shirt. This is a Flames shirt. Now, I'm not going to go crazy. I don't think it's only just above sort of the Santiago Wanderers shirt. But I'm going to stick it here. And this, of course, is our first Puma shirt. So let's get Puma on the board. Now, this will be interesting, of course. One of the biggest names in world football. It'll be interesting to see how Puma fare. Of course, a lot could change. But for the first shirt, I'm pretty happy with this one. And again, I'll be somewhat surprised if Puma stay up this high. You know, despite the kind of quality of teams Puma have, I'm not often the biggest Puma fan. But you know, this I actually think this is really good, and it does have some kind of, you know, some issues. It's not the most unique shirt, but I do actually think the overall aesthetic is quite nice. I guess, you know, if I was being picky, it'd be quite interesting to see that same simple collar design on the cuffs, or vice versa, to kind of have them matching. But overall, I'm pretty high on that shirt. Yeah, so that's Kawasaki Frontal, and we will now come to Vela Sarsfield, a very interesting shirt here, which we'll get onto very shortly. Boxing, I'm excited for the new MLS releases. From leaks and whispers, it seems like clubs are finally moving away from blue and plain white away shirts. Yeah, Brock, from what I've seen as well, I would definitely concur. I think there seems to be a development on, well, the kind of foundation. Like Adidas have been doing, broadly speaking, a bit better, and I think if they can continue to, you know, essentially put more effort in, at least, you know, it's not just about the kind of plainness for me, but it's just the lack of bespoke elements. But it seems to be, hopefully, that there's some growth from there, and that'll be a good thing. And I'm just saying, I love Kawasaki's as well. Yeah, I think that's like, it's not going to win a Kit of the Year award, but I do think when the end of the season comes, those are the kind of shirts you'd love to have in your collection, especially at a good price, although that's hard to say with a J-League release. Now, this Vela Sarsfield shirt is really interesting because it heavily borrows, like unashamedly borrows, the aesthetic of the classic Italy. Was it the 94 shirt? I can't remember, or maybe it was even a few years. Italy had a shirt, a home shirt with an aesthetic very similar. I think a kind of Baggio era Italy home shirts, and you can see, of course, the colours of the Italian flag here. And I believe there was a connection with the club and Italy, and I can't remember. I'd have to check the story properly. But honestly, the connection is really cool. And I think Diodoro are Italian, aren't they? Yeah, they are Italian. So what's really cool about this one is that you've got, it's got the nod to Italy, but I really like how it's done. You know, it's not in your face. This, of course, Vela Sarsfield themselves, who have this aesthetic on their shirts, the V, similar to the likes of Brescia in Italy. So there's so many kind of links to Italy. It's really cool to see that, and this is a great example of how you can be inspired by a shirt without necessarily just being a complete copy. Yes, it is very, very similar to that Italian shirt, but the way they've used that, and they've used it properly, the details go all the way around the cuffs and the collar, and it's just enough that it makes you remember that shirt whilst bringing its own thing to the table. Great to have Talking Kit here. One of the best channels on YouTube for kits. You guys should know them by now, but if you haven't already, check out their channel. I need to come on the channel as well. I'm sorry, guys. I've said multiple times I would, and I've been very poorly organised. But great to have you here. Thanks for that shout out. Yeah, Liam saying love that Diodoro collar, and Andrea saying yeah, Italia. maybe I'm Italian. Italy from USA 94. So yeah, this one, guys, is an easy consideration for the higher end of our I forget how difficult it is to essentially talk to myself for 2 hours straight. I'm out of practice, guys. I really like this. I think the execution is excellent. Honestly, it would be very easy to kind of fudge this up, but I think, you know, the whole thing worked. You know, I don't like the sponsor, I will say that much, but at least it's in the place which makes sense outside the V. The back sponsor is not great either, and I'm not the biggest fan of the kind of alternate Diodoro logo. But this is I think just going to miss out on the Volcano tier. In fact, I'll put it kind of mid to high Flames tier. This is a very it's a charming shirt. It's obviously brings that nostalgia element. I'm going to stick it right here though, and this of course is Diodoro off the board as well. So let's slam them right here. Now Diodoro, they're not probably going to have many shirts this year, simply because they don't have a huge footprint. But you know, it's quality, not quality, not quantity. We're looking for here. So that's a good start. Vela Sarsfield, and is that their home? Yes, the home shirt. I love it. I think that's a really creative interpretation you're bringing that element of the Italy shirt, but still, yeah, it combines a lot of nice elements of typical Velo Sarsfield kits. You can see even on their crest they've got the V. But just lots of things working together in unison there. Good stuff. Now, Arsenal's No More Red campaign continues for this year, so we will review the shirt. I believe it was worn, wasn't it? Was it worn? I think it was worn on the pitch. This one, I mean, much of what we said last year, if not all of what we said last year, applies here. An interesting campaign, and certainly a very bold campaign. An example of how football shirts have kind of been used in many ways in the kind of, recent years. Over the past decade, there's been a sharp rise in the use of football shirts to highlight causes, and not just football shirts that are kind of sold in a club shop, but even worn in a competitive fixture. Of course, this one has a lot of talking points given the fact it's essentially the same colour as their rivals Spurs. I think largely this feels a little bit less notable, obviously, compared to last year's. I think a fair question would be, why would you not just wear last year's? Of course, that's because of money. But I think the campaign, honestly, and if you read about the campaign, highlighting various charitable causes related to knife crime in London, it's a good cause. But honestly, I don't think we can put it much higher than kind of lower to mid canon, simply because essentially it's exactly the same approach this year. And looking at the shirt itself, it's not got the kind of top spec. If we're being really critical here, the top spec materials which you'd want to see on the very best shirts, this isn't, it doesn't look like it's a heat ready shirt. And again, I'm being very, very picky for what is essentially a charity shirt, but it's fine. But it's going to be lower candle, and this, funnily enough, is our first Adidas shirt, so that's poor old Adidas not having the best start. But of course, I'm sure I'm sure we'll see them higher up the list. Maybe we won't. This this kind of brand, this new brand section which we're introducing this year for Phil's Corner, is it is completely new, and it's relatively untested. I've not really had a chance to kind of see. Maybe there'll be enough kind of average Adidas shirts that they might actually stay down here. Who knows? But that is Adidas off the board. We'll see better Adidas shirts this year, of course. There's not too much to say about this one from Arsenal. Brock says, thoughts on the new USA shirt leak? I didn't love the leak, but obviously a lot can change on release. I think in general, USA, I'm not sure what their identity is at this point from a kit perspective. I think when you look at the most popular shirts, a lot of them have been kind of, almost like flag based, or the stripe kind of designs. Think of like the Where's Waldo kits, which that's what the Americans call it, isn't it? I think. And it feels like the more kind of tie-dye splatter stuff. Honestly, it feels very generic. It doesn't feel. I'm not saying it has to be, a bald eagle flying over, a mountain range or something overtly patriotic. But I do think it feels a bit average based on the leaks. Now we come to our first New Balance shirt of the year for FC Tokyo. I must say, guys, this isn't ticking my boxes. This is not floating my boat, whatever phrase you want to use. Now, I will comment on the collarbone sponsors, because again, it's notable how many J League clubs have actually removed the backgrounds from their collarbone sponsors. It seems like all of a sudden everyone's doing it, and that helps a lot with the aesthetics. But honestly, this collar feels very dated. It's got the one button look, which isn't typically my favourite look, but in general, I don't think it looks very good. It's a very kind of throwaway design for me. And there is a semblance of a pattern in the stripes there. That's fine. Your home shirts don't need to be busy, but I really don't think it looks that excited. It's a very average shirt. Now it's not bad. You do have the overall kind of stripe thickness, balance of the colours, whatever you want to say, is reasonable. But there's also a plain back which hurts. A detail there. The quality isn't amazing. Honestly, this New Balance, I think they're stuck in a rut. I was generally quite high on New Balance last year, and I think higher than a lot of people. A lot of people were very down on them. I thought I was kind of expecting them to kick on this year, or hoping they'd kick on. Based on this, though, I'm not liking this one. Now I don't think we're in icecube territory yet. We've not had an icecube tier shirt yet, and I don't think we're going to get one with this. But it's marginally higher than the Arsenal shirt. I don't think I'd put it much higher than that. That's kind of where I'm landing on this one. I'll stick it here. And of course, New Balance again. I think it's tricky, right? They've lost a lot of teams to the likes of Castor, and it's such a competitive field that I think very quickly they're starting to fall out of relevance. And that sounds extreme, but of course they had such a high from when they were really good with Liverpool and Celtic, and they had that great year. Was it 2017? They were easily a top 10 manufacturer. I think you could have made an argument for like a top 6, maybe top 7 at that time, and they've basically been on a downward slide since then. And there were some good shirts last year. I thought they were kind of back on, maybe on the uprise, but we'll see. Early days, we're one shirt in for them, but I wasn't too excited by that FC Tokyo shirt. Liam says, I think it looks better on the player than just the shirt image. I would agree. I mean, New Balance, they do have these really nice kind of marketing shots, and credit, they have a nice kind of aesthetic for that. I'll give them that. I'd imagine you'd assume it was a Bologna shirt. Yeah, you would. Is the away shirt any better? I mean, personally, oh my god. Personally, I prefer that colour style. It's still not great, and I actually don't mind having the coloured elements of the sponsor logos there. That's fine. It's consistent. The overall kind of silhouette, there seems to be kind of shadow stripes in there. This is certainly better than the home shirt for me, but it's not really the one to get too excited about. I think we're still looking at the Cannon tier, albeit a higher on the Cannon tier. So that's the Tokyo FC or FC Tokyo away shirt. And New Balance, again, I'll reserve judgment till we see a few more shirts, but I would say it's a relatively inauspicious start for them. If we'll slide New Balance up a bit more. What I should do really as well, and this is going to help me further down the line, I will rank or order these brands by alphabetically, because then that way I'll be able to find them a bit more easy when we have 30 brands on there. So there we go. That's New Balance. I would say, as I say, they're in danger of basically falling too far behind brands like Macron and Kappa, who've got a bit more history anyway. Like New Balance always, competing, and now they've lost the Roma deal, which was probably their best kind of partnership. It's not a good time to be if you're a New Balance fan. Tricky times ahead. Brock says, are you going to bid on the Messi friendly shirt against Ronaldo? It's only up to 31,000. Oh man, I mean, that's the price of a player issue Jordan shirt, isn't it? Anyway, right? That's yeah. I actually don't really like that PSG shirt. It's not a bad shirt, but yeah, completely. I wrote about this in my editorial for Football Shirt Collective. I'm kind of over the PSG Jordan thing now. Let's go back to the J League though. Let's come to some interesting shirts. We've got Shimizu S-Pulse, home away in third. Looks to be the same design in 3 colorways. So let's take them one by one. We'll start with the home. Now, Shimizu S-Pulse, pardon me, one of those teams, you know what you're getting. You know you're going to get something map related. And this is a fun take on that. It's certainly an abstract looking map. You've got the club's classic colours are always a good starting point, and I really like this kind of burnt orange. They've gone for a slightly more vibrant shade than they often use. I think this is good. Like, I don't think it's my favourite Shimizu shirt, but it's good to see the kind of familiar elements done in a different way. So I think Puma in general, it's interesting because they really, I don't think, have found that kind of that next step that Nike and Adidas have found with their player spec shirts. And there's actually, I don't know if it's confirmed, but lots of reports saying Puma are going to discontinue Ultra Weave, which was their latest player spec technology. Now that's not necessarily a problem because I do think Ultra Weave had its issues, so it's not a bad thing to go back to the drawing board and kind of cut your losses. But it kind of speaks to the fact that, again, this isn't an Ultra Weave shirt, but I think just typically for the brand, you would probably still consider them number 3 in the world, but they're not doing a lot to kind of solidify that position. But anyway, this Shimizu shirt, I actually think I would probably rank it. I think I'd just sneak it into the Flame tier, or maybe looking at it again, we'll go top of the Canon tier. There's going to be much more to come, I'm sure. Let's stick it right next to our new logo there. And of course, this now means we can drag Puma down a little bit. Now, yeah, somewhere in between those two shirts feels about right. So we can go kind of here, and again, this is going to slide up and down. But that's Puma with the Shimizu S Pulse, and now of course we can rank the away and the third. So I'm not sure which is which. I believe the blue is the away. Thank you, Andres. Always good to keep updated on how a club is actually doing in the real world. Just saying, Shimizu will be playing in J2 since they got relegated last season. I must admit, I did not see that. So, yeah, I don't think this colorway pops nearly as much. That shade of navy is a little bit like. It sounds funny, guys, but navy kits often just don't do it for me. I think this one is kind of one of those. I'd like to see it in a slightly different shade. I think overall, the same kind of effectiveness of the pattern is still there, but I would certainly rank this one more towards the kind of lower mid counter tier. And again, that's Puma, so we will move them a little bit as well. I'm not going to do this too kind of. Again, we're not going to do it scientifically. We're basing it on vibes as much as anything else. But that's Puma, getting those back a bit. And then we will come to the third shirt. It looks like the pattern might be there in a very, very light green. Now, honestly, guys, I actually really like that decision. It's almost too subtle. It's very, very subtle. But that's a really surprising choice. And that actually makes you like this shirt a lot more. Like, it comes out of left field. I don't think it's necessarily... Well, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But I actually really like that. I think that would look really nice in person. Again, we can't really see it on these pictures. And you can't really even see it on some of the marketing shots. But just looking at that, can you see that? I hope that can show up on screen. So that's... Honestly, I think that's like as good as the home. Yeah. It's one of those... Like, I think sometimes a surprising colour choice of that... It's just it adds a freshness to the kit, which would otherwise, if they'd just done the more obvious thing, I assumed it would just be a slightly off-white shade, or maybe even like a grey, a very kind of subliminal grey. But the light green is a really unusual choice. I honestly dig it. I'm not going to rank it super high, but I would genuinely put it higher end of the Canon tier, not a million miles off from the Flames tier. So let's stick it there. And with that in mind, we will nudge Puma back up a bit. Not by much, but I think we can sort of say, yeah, I'll stick them there. So that's the set of kits for Shimizu S Pulse. I'm largely, pretty satisfied with those. The collar is what it is. It's nothing special, but we've certainly seen worse ones. Now we come to Gimnasia. Club de Gimnasia y Grima La Plata. We'll call them Gimnasia though. They have recently moved from Hummel, my boys Hummel, to Zhivova. Now Zhivova, a brand who have kind of been in and around the kind of scene. I believe, were they the guys that worked with Venezuela? I might be thinking of someone else. Please correct me in chat if I am thinking of someone else. Very safe and unspectacular shirts here for Gimnasia. If we start with the white version, there's very little to say really. Now, crest execution is reasonable, and you can see there's a few detail shots. Sorry, but the yawn is indicative of how I feel about these shirts. That's maybe harsh, but yeah, just looking at it, I really do think This screams first shirt of a new deal. I'm just trying to get a look at that. The brand mark almost looks like it's purple in some of these shots. Now, I think that's possibly just the lighting. But anyway, very, very safe. Because the club have quite a nice base style anyway, I quite like this kind of Boca style. It automatically means it's even a very simple version of their shirts are reasonable, but we could do much better, and Jovova will need to do much better to put themselves on the map. So let's start with the home. This, I still don't think we've got an icecube tier shirt. I mean, there will be many this year. I don't think we've quite reached that level, but I will stick these guys quite low down. I think if we say something around here, that feels, honestly, I'll probably sneak it just above our friends FC Tokyo. But that is our first Jovova. Let's make sure I spell that right. Yep, that's good. That's our first Jovova shirt of the year. So it'll be interesting to see. Again, I can't recall many teams that they work with, but this is a new deal with Gymnasia taking over from Hummel. I'll just say yes, for this items outfits by Jovova. Thank you very much, mate. And then the away, interesting combo. I think having the secondary blue there as a kind of much more bright blue with the navy, I don't think that looks that great. It honestly, the shirt overall just looks a little bit cheap, a little bit underwhelming. Not helped by the sponsor. I couldn't tell you what they do. Rappi Quota, but not the most aesthetically pleasing sponsor. So overall, a little bit underwhelming. I think this one probably could go in the icecube tier, honestly. I think this will be our first one of the year. There'll be much worse shirts to come. I don't think we need to get too riled up about this one, but certainly it's an underwhelming set of kits for Jovova, and that will knock them down as well. I think we can knock them just above, just in the counter tier. We'll see how they fare for the rest of the year, but yeah, I think overall feeling pretty muted about these kits. And just as the navy band across the chest reminds you of the Vancouver Whitecaps, yeah, that is very much the vibe, actually. That's a fair shout. That is a fair shout. Right, let's continue. We've got an hour. In fact, I'll just take a very quick break. I said let's continue. I'll just take a short break just to grab a drink of water. I'll be back in a minute, guys. Don't go anywhere. Let me just make sure I found the right hotkey for this. We're back. Hello. Right. Where were we? We were on page 5. Or page 6, I should say. Now we're on page 5. What have we got in store? We have got Yokohama FC. So staying in Japan, we've got a range of Japanese shirts. And incidentally, there's some really good ones to come. But let's come back to another Puma shirt. Now, this, I'm pretty sure, and I can't recall the teams. There's a few teams that had this design. Someone with a better memory than me can remember who it was. Was it not Vicenza? Who were the team I'm thinking of in Italy? One of the Turkish clubs who play in yellow and red. Anyway, there were, I'm sure, and I might be wrong, I'm sure there was a few French teams had this design, but I say French teams, Puma teams, including a French club. Again, I'm racking my brains. It'll come to me in the middle of the night, but I actually quite like this design. It is subtle, but I think, you know, the overall effect is strong. You know, the sponsors, it sounds funny, but they've actually lined them up as well as they could have. Look at the way, like, it's a small thing, guys, but look at the way that sponsor fits neatly in the box. That aligns nicely, at least on the left, with that stripe. This fits in. So, like, you know, all the elements, I guess that could be slightly better, but like, it's well put together. And despite the kind of, you know, again, I'm pretty sure we saw this pattern last year. Maybe it was a different design. You know, the collar and cuffs are completely no nonsense. I actually think this is good. I don't think I'd quite put it in the Flames tier, but this is one of those shirts which, again, it's not going to stand out at first glance, but then you look at it and I really do think they've made a good use of this design. And again, I think I'm like 80% sure, maybe that's not high enough, but 80% sure we saw this pattern last year. I actually think this is a good use of that, though, even though it possibly was reused. So this is another one I think we're going to stick kind of high on the high on the counter tier, and I actually think Puma we can nudge them a bit higher, just a little bit. But I do think, again, broadly speaking, we've seen a couple of good shirts from Puma in Japan. Like, that's good. That's good to see. If anything, again, I must admit I missed that one on release, but that makes me feel kind of pretty good about Puma. And then if we look at the away, it seems to be the same design. Now, what's funny about this one, I think this is what I was expecting when I said in the Shimizu S-Pulse shirt, which I quite liked the choice of the green there, which is very hard to see, but you can just about make it out there. In this example, it's more of what you'd expect, a very, very almost imperceptible difference there. It's fine. I don't think it's you know, it almost looks like a Marseille shirt, doesn't it? Those colours. I think we're looking at kind of low to mid candle, but yeah, not a bad combo. And you know, it's funny because I would certainly take this set over something like the FC Tokyo shirts, and I think I'm right in saying FC Tokyo are a bit of a bigger club, but I might be wrong on that. I'm not going to get into J League club rankings. That I'll be outside of my depth, but yeah, I think this one kind of somewhere around here. Let's go there, and we'll, again, every time we rank a shirt, we will just obviously slightly nudge the brand one way or the other. That's Puma, maybe going back there, but overall, I think feeling pretty good about, again, some of these J League Puma shirts. And it's going to be very interesting to kind of track. That's one thing why I'm really keen to have this kind of brand section, to kind of track what brands are kind of up and coming. Because again, there were a number of brands last year who I would say punched well above their weight. And this should hopefully help us to kind of gauge that as we go through the year. Now we come to Nagoya Grampus. And this, we're talking to brands, Mizuno. Now guys, I'm going to tell you now, with the Hokkaido Consadole Sapporo shirts, we're going to have our first Volcano tier. But we'll come on to that. Let's come to Nagoya Grampus first. Now, Mizuno have been doing some really good stuff in the last couple of years. Of all the kind of nostalgic brands that have kind of been lurking in the background, they, I think, are taking advantage of their increased exposure in Europe. Now, they've been doing their thing in their native Japan for a while. This isn't new. I would say this shirt is one of the weaker ones, though. It does feel, it's got that kind of, I mean, that placket is massive. And having the one button look, we've seen so many one button kits that it's kind of here to stay, but I don't like it. I don't like that aesthetic. I don't really like the collar as a whole. I don't know what you'd call it, but the way you see it cuts out there at a sharp angle, that to me is not a good collar. Also, we talked about collarbone sponsors. I mean, this one in the more kind of classic sense with the background. Yeah, so this one is a fairly forgettable one. There is an interesting pattern throughout the body, but overall, I would say this is kind of this is close to icecube tier territory. There are much better Mizuno shirts out there. Brock says maybe you could rank leagues, or would that be too complicated? Honestly, Brock, I'm gonna suggest I might not do that just to kind of keep the complexity level down. But having said that, I will be open to suggestions, and if I won't rule it out completely. I'm gonna suggest I won't start off with that. Although having said that, yeah, just because I think then it's kind of, you know, do we start, how granular do we get? Do we start ranking like, well, I guess assume we'd rank lower leagues as well. I think, yeah, I think I'm gonna say no, but never say never. I may change my mind. People may convince me otherwise. Come back to Nagoya Grampus. I do think this is better than the FC Tokyo shirt, you know, when I look at it here, but I wouldn't put it above the Yokohama shirt. So I think this very slim corridor is ripe for a ranking there. And this, of course, will now also give us an opportunity to put Mizuno on the board. Now, I'm expecting Mizuno to be much higher, because I do think, again, though they don't have the biggest portfolio, I do actually think they've got a lot of good shirts. I do think, typically as a brand, well, I'd like to see more of them. So that's where I'm thinking for Mizuno on their first shirt of the year, which is the Nagoya Grampus home. If we come to the away, I actually think this works better. It's the same design in different colours, but I do think, you know, you could say, obviously the sponsors, there's a lot of colours going on there. Although it's funny because having the kind of 3 primary colours there, it could be a lot worse. You could have much worse colour combos. Yeah, so the sponsors do dominate, and it's funny, you look at Nagoya Grampus, they've got kind of quite nice club colours there with the kind of bronze shade on their crest. They could definitely utilise that in some way. There's a green. They've got every colour under the sun. It is a lot to look at. But I think overall that style works better in the away colourway. So we're still talking middle of the candle tier, guys, but I would say something around here feels good. Guys, for anyone who's just joining in this second hour, welcome to Phil's Corner Live. If you want to make sure you don't leave without subscribing, and you can subscribe and also support me on Patreon as well if you want to support me on Patreon. Details in the description. But thanks for stopping by. Good to see a decent number of us on our first Hot Wall stream of the year. Stick around, because again, we'll be here for about another hour, and then in next week, hopefully next Tuesday, we're going to have our first eBay stream of the year, so that's going to be really fun. We'll come on to that, and there'll be other Phil's Corner videos as well. So yeah, great to have you here though. Looking forward to spending this year with you all. So Mizuno, good start, nothing spectacular, but now we're going to ramp up the temperature. Now again, I kind of tease this because this is one of the shirts which I immediately noticed earlier in the year. Brock, this is footballshirtculture.com, and this is a site which I use, and I've used for a long time in my work, because they just do a good job. They don't get quite every shirt, they do occasionally miss a few shirts, but they get the majority of new releases on here, and it's basically everything you want from this sort of site. You know, good coverage. They tend to have the high res images on there, and it's not filled with ads. They do have some ads, but it's not filled with ads, and it's not filled with broken English. And you know, look at the E3 headlines. Guys, just straight up, I love this collection of kits. Now, I talked about this again on some my newsletter with FSC. Just pound for pound, I think these are so interesting. Now, they have a slightly kind of noughties aesthetic with the kind of piping on the sleeves, but this is just honestly, like, all of these shirts are great, and I think this is an easy Volcano tier inclusion. I love the look of this shirt. Some of the details, like the little eyes here from the crest. The fact this kind of sleeve panel is so interesting. You've got a kind of striped panel on the sleeves. It's hard to kind of see, but it's a very unusual construction. I really like the piping. I honestly like the aesthetic of the black and white. Sponsors are incorporated in that. This kind of distressed diamond pattern, it's quite kind of contemporary, but I think it's a nice take on the kind of the pattern pattern kind of direction. It's not an all over pattern, but it bleeds into the back just about enough that it doesn't bother me too much. I'm going to start with this one because this is an easy inclusion in the Volcano tier. This is our first one of the year, and I love to see this in person. I think that will be kind of a big thing. What's the quality like? I haven't had a modern Mizuno shirt, so it's very much on my list. I need to tap up some of my contacts in Japan and try and get this one. But I think this is, for me, it's an easy inclusion in the Volcano tier. And of course this will do wonders for Mizuno's rankings. So Mizuno currently all the way down there in the candle tier, but I think let's not get too carried away, but I think we can easily bump them up into something like here, and of course it could get much higher with a few more good releases. So that is I really am high on this shirt. I think it would have been very easy to just do a blackout shirt, but I think there's enough here. I think the construction, the use of the pattern, the style of the pattern, I think is really strong. I think it looks really good, and the home is quite similar. This pattern reminiscent of kind of a lot of like Puma a couple of years ago were doing this with some of their striped kits. But again, it's got the interesting sleeve panel, which of course fits in really well with the stripes of the body. The pattern I think is really nice. It's a nice level of contrast, and it's just it's not quite Volcano tier, but it's another really, really good shirt. Like this, I think is an easy high flames tier shirt, and this is for the same team. Some teams get all the sauce, some teams get all the good stuff, and I'm really high on this collection of kits. So this is the home shirt. I don't think we're looking at anything as high as the away, but I really am high on what Mizuno are doing here, and I think I'd probably sneak it just below Velo Sarsfield. But this again, if we consider where Mizuno are at this early stage of the season, I think we can stick them around here. And again, the reason they're not above Diodora is because there's a few Mizuno shirts down here, but overall really high. And I'm actually we're not even done. There's the third shirt. Now the third shirt, it's really strong. Like I'm not in love with the style here, the pattern, but it's a really interesting direction. In 3 shirts here, home, away, and third. Really, really creative angle to go down. To have, again, stripes in this kind of execution, which is really nice. A much more kind of contemporary vibe, and then this. Again, an interesting take on the kind of central stripe. So, Hokkaido, Contador Sapporo, really, really good set of kits. This one I think is kind of probably mid-flames tier. Like I think that, things like the crest has been adapted again for the away and third. I just think you're not going to find many better trios. And it comes from Mizuno, and it really has me excited to see more Mizuno shirts this year. This collection alone has me very excited. I hope Mizuno bring this level to some of the European clubs. And I think we can say, I think confidently now. And again, this isn't a kind of scientific ranking, but I'm going to just nudge Mizuno ahead of Diodora. Well, maybe that's a bit higher. We have to remember there's some shirts in the counter tier, but we'll stick them neck and neck with Diodora. Anyway, regardless, really, really strong. That's our first Volcano tier shirt of the year. So we're off the board, guys. We've had our first icecube, our first Volcano. This tier list is looking pretty bare. The hot wall is looking pretty empty. It's going to get a lot busier. Johnny says, hey, when designing the shirt, what options make a shirt more expensive to manufacture? That's a great question, Johnny. Now, in all honesty, my knowledge of the manufacturing process is quite minimal. But what I do know is that you're looking at things like, materials is a big one, and how a pattern is printed, whether it's done as a sublimation, printed in the material of the shirt, or done as a kind of vinyl print. Of course, you could even get jacquard designs, so that's actually kind of woven in. There's a lot of different approaches, but I think certainly you're looking at things like materials, production techniques. Of course, you could also look at kind of logistics, where things are manufactured. There's a lot of elements, but you tend to see the same sorts of things at different tiers. So in the lower tiers, you've got typically fully sublimated shirts. You have fewer options of things like collars and cuffs. You tend to see more sort of just bland designs. And at the higher tiers, you're looking at kind of ventilation mapping and fancy stuff like that. But largely speaking, again, I couldn't bring you much more insight than that. But it, what's interesting is I think a lot of, when I've been speaking to Tor, for example, the guys I'm working with this year, they've talked about their desire to kind of try and do some of the things which some of the bigger guys are doing. So things like more fancy materials, more interesting materials. And this is a really small manufacturer, but clearly you can see the way the industry is kind of moving in that direction. So, but yeah, something hopefully as I grow in experience, I could probably shed more light on that in the years to come. Now we come to Vissel Kobe, one of the biggest teams in Japan, or certainly the highest profile teams of recent years, and a really interesting couple of kits here from Asics. Asics, we've not had them yet, so that's going to be our first Asics kits on the board. This one I think is really interesting. Now this, am I right in saying I think last year we saw a similar kind of sponsor logo. It's a very dominating kind of sponsor. The overall effect I think is quite nice. I think the colours are actually quite good on these Vissel Kobe shirts. The kind of maroon, and in this case it's kind of almost like a kind of diagonal half and half. It's good. I actually think this is quite nice. I personally think the away is even better, and I think the way they've kind of simplified the sponsor logo design, and it's a really unusual sponsor with this kind of off-center central element. I don't even know. It looks like a mountain. I don't know the story behind that. I think that's a tower in Kobe. Someone told me the story, but I've forgotten. But anyway, this I think is really nice. I think the overall effect is quite strong. I would probably sneak this in the Flames tier, to be honest. Again, I think it's one of those very classy color combos. I like the fact that there's some synergy with the collar and cuffs, having the gold and the black, and I think the design, it's not revolutionary, but it's strong. It's strong, and I do actually think, again, this one I would only just kind of sneak into the Flames tier. If we stick them there, and I'm actually going to get Asics as well. We'll make sure they're represented on this brand list. If I can spell the name right, there we go. Thank you, Brock. So yeah, if you are following along at home, Football Show Culture, New Kits tab, page 5. Thank you very much. Yeah, that's true. I should make sure we're aware of that as we go through, so you guys can see what's coming. Andrew says Vissels is a sharp kit. Both of them are like them. Yes, it's Kobe Tower. I was there back in 2020. Good stuff. Thank you for confirming, Andres. Yeah, I actually think, it's funny. I talked about what I liked about the colour scheme in this home. When we come to the away, bringing, kind of reducing the number of colours, or at least kind of, flattening the colour scheme. It looks great. I really like this. I think this is again, it's the same design, but just kind of change up of colours. Taste this one, I think. I'd even put it above the Hokkaido third shirt. That's how much I like it. So, guys, the J League, it never lost its strength. Of course, we will remember the glory days of the 90s, but even in the modern day, I think there's more good than bad in Japan. So this one, I think, again, I would put it above the home. I'd put it, I said already, above the Hokkaido shirt. Let's find a suitable gap. Let's go somewhere like here. Let's overlap a bit. Why not? This is going to be happening a lot anyway, isn't it? As we get more and more lists, shirts on this tier list. And that's Asics. So yeah, I hope we see more of them. They're a brand we've not seen them really cross over into Europe, I don't think, at least off the top of my head, unlike Mizuno. But I'd like to see more of them. Again, guys, this is what is a really good decision. You see the side here, look at how the pattern, it sounds silly, and you'd think surely they would do this, but if they'd have just flipped the pattern, had the pattern, not align in this way, it wouldn't work as well. And again, you could say, it's not quite lined up, but that's as good as lined up. Well, it is lined up basically, isn't it? And that looks really good to have the lighter side and the dark side. And I think little things like that make a difference. Honestly, this shirt is really nice. I'm the more I look at it, I think that's maybe I could even bump it up a bit higher, but we'll leave it there for now. A good set of kits from ASICS. Hopefully we see more of them this year. Universitario, so we're kind of bouncing between South America and Japan. We come now to Peru. Marathon are one of those brands who have done some good stuff. And Brock, indeed, talking about Universitario, says, I'm always so high on Universitario shirts. I love the cream maroon colours. Agreed. I'm a big fan of cream. It's the kind of thing which I enjoyed seeing a lot more. There was a lot more kind of off-white shirts last year, and I'd expect that to continue. Of course, this is typical of Universitario. This isn't just them jumping on the trend or anything. But looking at this, immediate win on the collar. Look at this, what looks to be an embossed pattern. It could technically be debossed. I never like the word debossed or debossed. Never sounds right to me, even though it is technically right. I think sometimes I'm going to use embossed, but that's just me being silly. But you can see that on, I think there's the cuffs, or maybe it's the bottom hem of the shirt. No, it's the cuffs. Even though these aren't the most flattering product shots, I think they could do to maybe take some better product shots. But those details. Now, this is what we, when I was talking with Johnny's question about what makes a shirt more expensive or kind of higher quality, it's things like this, and this is excellent. This is, you don't see this even from even like the likes of Puma don't often do stuff like this. I mean, even Nike and Adidas don't always do these kind of embossed patterns. It's such a nice quality detail. So that is honestly top drawer. Now, if to kind of bring it back down to earth, I don't love the pattern in the body. That to me feels a bit throwaway. Honestly, I'd actually rather not have those stripes. They're kind of almost like a barcode stripes. But overall, this is really good. And again, it's funny that they look a bit kind of. I think it is just maybe just the quality of the shirt. Perhaps the way it bulges out there, it feels a bit out of line. But overall, really good. That back net detail, not the highest quality. It just looks like almost like a kind of sticker style. But I like the look of it. So overall, this is a flame stick shirt. This is really good, and I think this is, again, really, really cool to see a smaller manufacturer bringing out good quality details. Like the embossed collar and cuffs are like absolutely top drawer. Like that single-handedly, that detail single-handedly makes this shirt, I think, a contender for this area of the tier list. The colour scheme is a big win as well. I do think the pattern is a bit of to me, it's a distraction, but I would still rank this very highly. I think we're talking something in this range, and that is, just excellent from Marathon. And this is funny, again, it's very early into the year, so I'm not going to draw too many conclusions, but you can see already, guys. Look at our top three, and again, this is literally we're one episode in. But if I just actually correct that to Marathon, look at that. Mizuno, Diodora, Marathon. That says it all. And that's the kind of thing you get in the world of football shirts. Yeah, sure, Adidas and Puma, they're going to have better shirts this year. But this is great. This is a really, really good football shirt. So yeah, great stuff from Universitario. I mean, also, can we just talk about the crest? Love the Universitario crest. Just a big U. Just a big letter. That, this is obviously, it's a feature on a number of particularly South American clubs. Just giant letters. I love it. It looks great. And just says El Equipo Crema, the cream team. Love that. Is that actually their nickname? Because that is a brilliant nickname. It's good. I love it. Cream is good as a colour. Really good stuff from Mouthing. Right, we have Hummel. Now, I'm a huge Hummel fanboy. I work with Hummel, so I'm very biased. But needless to say, I was very excited to see Hummel working with Gamba Osaka. Gamba Osaka, one of the storied clubs of Japan. This is excellent. Now, the pattern, it's a bit kind of generic, a bit kind of, you know, I feel like you've seen it before. And there's a lot going on. You know, you could say the kind of QR code here, it's quite busy. The centralized crest is an interesting choice. I don't mind it. I think it's funny because the Gamba Osaka, the recently rebranded Gamba Osaka crest, it looks a bit like a shield, like almost like a Scudetto patch, doesn't it? So I think of all the kind of crests you'd stick in the middle, this one kind of feels about right. Internet detail, which looks kind of similar, the kind of aesthetic I should say, of the kind of almost like the Southampton third kit from, was it last year or 2 years ago? And you can see what's going to be a feature of a number of Hummel kits is their 100th anniversary. So look out for that logo in some designs. Great crest application with the TPU crest. I think this is like, honestly, this is really good. I am biased. Good to see more than just 2 chevrons. You'd obviously want more, but no. Overall, I think this is Flames tier. Lower Flames tier. I think it would need something a bit more original to kind of take it to the next level. But again, I think like having the centralized crest kind of feels alright given the rebrand. Like I feel it kind of suits the crest. Some crests don't look as good in the middle of the shirt, but this one does. A pretty good start to Humble Gamba Osaka. We will see what else we'll have up their sleeve in the coming years, but I am very biased. I don't actually think it's as good as the Vissel Kobe or Hokkaido shirts there. I think we're looking at something more like this, but I mean that's Hummel off the board. We'll get them on this list here. So let's just bring that there. Again, I'm going to do a lowercase because I think that's how they would say their name. But anyway, that's Hummel. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with. I would be pretty happy with that as an away kit. And then we come to the home shirt. Now this one, I think, comparing it to the away, whereas the away had this kind of fairly generic pattern, this one with the stripes, it feels maybe even safer. And I think in some ways the gradient at the bottom of the shirt, honestly, I don't know why it's there. Like, fair enough, it's a design choice going into the shorts. It does look good with the shorts, and obviously with shirts like this with a gradient, you need to see them with the shorts to fully appreciate it. You know, the lines in the stripes, I could take or leave. Like, I think, you know, I'm being very critical. I think this is still like lower end of the Flames tier, but it's not. It has that kind of first shirt of a new deal feel. Where it's not reinventing the wheel, and that's okay. You know, when you come in as a new brand, it's good actually to basically not put all your chips on the table in year one. Yeah, no, honestly, when I look at this, you know, I'm glad to see all the elements line up well in the stripes, which again sounds obvious, but it doesn't always happen. Although the off-center stars above the crest, which is just a funny thing with Japanese clubs. I don't remember someone did explain it to me once. I can't remember what the explanation was. I think it is largely just because they can, but I might be wrong on that. Anyway, long and short, I would actually rank this lower than the away, but I think we're still in the Flames territory. Something around where the Incheon United shirt feels about right. I probably would put it above the Vissel Kobe as well, to be honest, and just below the away. Yeah, so that's Hummel. Again, we'll just nudge them slightly lower on our list here, but yeah, expect much more from my favourite manufacturer in football. Guys, as we come into the last half hour, I just want to say thank you. It's been good to be back in the hot seat. Good to be back on stream. I hope you've enjoyed this, and of course there's much more to come, guys. I hope you enjoyed this slightly updated tier list. Now we've got the kind of labels here. I think it looks a bit better. Our little logo, which again I might tweak. I'm not kind of completely sold on that, but it's there anyway. Yeah, but I hope you've enjoyed this. And again, this is going to be the first of, we're probably going to have like 40 plus episodes of this. Well, maybe not 40 because it's only going to be one every 2 weeks. Regardless, at least 20 episodes. I think what we will do as well, guys, as we get later in the year, we'll do longer streams. So this, of course, has already been, we're coming up to 2 hours. We'll be doing, I think, because we're going to be doing it once every 2 weeks, potentially some 3-hour streams, maybe even 4-hour streams, kind of afternoon long streams. And we'll be doing that depending on, as it gets busier in the summer, we'll do more like that. And we'll maybe try and kind of do some more things during stream to make it more fun and interactive. But yeah, hope you enjoy this. We are on the home straight for this episode. We'll keep going. Andrew says the stars are plenty because they're leaving room for more. A confident budget jelly. Yeah, what a great. Honestly, I think that's absolutely brilliant. Doesn't do much for you if you got OCD, but it is a lot of like you say. That's that says a lot about the confidence there. Now, guys, tell me out. Did City actually wear this on the pitch? I don't think they did they? I'm pretty sure this was just a lifestyle or pre-match shirt. If I'm wrong, though, please do correct me, and I will come at you. I just can't recall, and maybe I just missed it. It was only a couple of weeks ago. I don't think they wore it on pitch, did they? If they did, we will rank it. We're going to skip to the Mainz 2023 Carnival shirt. These shirts are always interesting. I think, broadly speaking, some of the more recent Carnival shirts have been less memorable than some of the earlier ones. So when we come to this Carnival shirt, it falls into some of the kind of modern traps, i.e. a plain back. When I look at the pattern, just very distracted by that. It's an amusing shot there with the urinal. I'm not sure it does much for the shirt, but anyway, if we come to the shirt, I think the pattern, the pattern execution is nice. Again, it's an embossed pattern. That's really good, and that's a good decision. It's the kind of thing which, if you look at this, you think, okay, what is what it is. Collar and cuffs feel a bit like an afterthought, but I do really like the choice of an embossed pattern. To be honest, I think that is the right call. And again, seeing the context, we've said this before, same as when you see a shirt with shorts, when you see a shirt with names and numbers, it looks great, and it helps because even though you have the plain back, of course that really helps fill it out. That wonderful German tradition of having the T name at the top, which I think is always really cool. Overall, I think this one is actually, honestly, because that pattern is embossed, that makes you think a lot more about this shirt. It's not, they've had better Carnival shirts, they've had more daring Carnival shirts, but I do think this is quite interesting. And this kind of icon style, iconography style, it's quite popular. We've seen kind of a bit of a trend of kind of tattoo inspired shirts. It reminds me of some of those ones we've seen. So this is like, I think would sneak this into the Flames tier. It's not going to be in the higher end just because, again, I don't think things like the plain back, we have to penalise it, and that's not, there will be some shirts, there were some shirts last year which had a plain back in the Volcano tier, but largely speaking it hurts me too much to see not even an attempt to get something in the back. I know it's because of regulations, but that is what it is. I'll try not to bang on about it too much. But yeah, I think I take it. Would I take it over Gamma Osaka? Probably not over the away. I think it's somewhere in here. Again, this is a fairly kind of, we're slapping it down there. And of course this is Kappa, so where are Kappa? Yeah, Kappa here. We'll nudge them a few pixels ahead. Nothing too much, but certainly feels like kind of where Kappa are at the moment. In a good place. And that is a solid shirt. Now we come to Tokyo Verdy. I must say, now last year with Tokyo Verdy, we talked a bit about Athleta. I think these are one of, if not the only, if not, let me start again. I can't think of another Athleta team. Even though the design is trying something quite interesting, and it does have it on the back as well. The placement of the logos feels very off. I don't like this collar style. It feels very derivative of a number of other designs. The logo, the Athleta logo, honestly doesn't look good with the 3 stars. It's just everything looks too wide. It looks a bit cheap. Of course, when you're a manufacturer who are a bit newer to the game, you're not going to have, like that material. We've seen this honestly looks like bottom tier kind of shirt material. The design, it's fine, but I do really think it's got this kind of vaguely similar aesthetic to the Santiago shirt. I think that one was much better executed by Macron, both in quality and design. Now the color scheme is interesting. This is kind of what Tokyo Verde have been kind of leaning on, a more kind of green and gold as opposed to kind of some of their earlier shirts. But I can't really say I like this one too much. Now I actually think this is Canon tier. I don't think that we're talking about the icecube tier here. And I think that's largely down to things like the quality of the shirt and particularly the placement of those logos. Like, personally, guys, I don't think that looks that good, having such a wide gap. Like, it feels, I don't know, I'm being picky, but if you nudge it in just ever so slightly, I think that would look better. Yeah, everything just feels a bit wide. And I think just, again, the pattern, it's fine. To be honest, I think, I may be being a bit too down on it, but I would say, as opposed to kind of, I think this is definitely counter tier, and I would probably say we're looking at kind of mid to low. I'd take it over the Nagoya one though. I think somewhere between Nagoya and Shimizu's away shirt there, or third shirt. Can't remember which of the navy it was. Let's get Athleta on the boards. Athleta. Tomato. Athleta. Yep. I think, again, I don't remember any other shirts from them. We'll see what else we have in store for 2023. And this is the green pattern reminds me of the malachite on the base of the World Cup trophy. Yeah, that's a really good shout. It does look a lot like that. And Brock said last season was my favourite Myers Carnival shirt they've had. I'm trying to remember now which one that was. Let's have a quick look because I can't recall. 2022. Oh yeah, that was. See that was a better shirt. Again, played back unfortunately, but yeah, that was much stronger. Even though I like this shirt, don't get me wrong, but I think from memory we ranked this one higher in the flavour set. I might be wrong. I'll have to check. Oh, sorry, I have to check last year's wall. Right, let's see how many we could do in the last 20 minutes. Sagan Tosu, New Balance, back on the board. Much stronger than FC Tokyo. I think, Arnold. Good to see you, my friend. Good morning to you in Long Beach, California. I hope you're well. Thanks for stopping by. And yeah, we're just in the home straight. Now this design, Sagan Tosu, a very notable colour scheme. A kind of creative take on the stripes. And stripe kits are hard to innovate year on year. This kind of distressed look, honestly, I think the balance is pretty good. What you often find with these kind of stripe kits is that the stripes or the colour of the stripes gets a bit lost. And I think, that's just typically with these distressed striped kits. And the problem comes with when you have a team like, some of the great Italian clubs, Inter, Juve, AC Milan, and you lose so much of that kind of the key colour in the stripes. It can feel a bit off balance. I think it's, they've done a reasonable job, but it's still obviously you kind of lose a bit of the pink there. You'd kind of want a bit more pink, I think, maybe even in the base, although you'd lose the distressed aesthetic. But anyway, overall, this is much better than FC Tokyo. Like, I think this is easily above those, and I'd probably even put it above Shonan Belmar. So again, good for a good improvement for New Balance based on that shirt alone. So we can certainly nudge them. Again, I'm changing language on my keyboard there accidentally. Yeah, that's good. And if anything, we have now found a good New Balance shirt in the Sagan Tosu away shirt. I really like this. Look at the pattern. An interesting kind of almost like a camo pattern, but I love it. I love the use. It's a very soft kind of shade of pink, contrasted with the more vibrant shade of pink, which is a nice link to the crest. So that pink looks good there. It ties in the crest. And of course you got the kind of various sponsors, but the pattern here honestly really works for me. And you can see here, I like it. I really, really like it. I think this is immediately like a breath of fresh air compared to what we've seen from FC Tokyo. And you know, this is a mark above the Sagan Tosu home. So this is an easy Flames tier shirt for me. I wouldn't put this as high as some of the shirts we've ranked today, but I would definitely put this middle of this tier. I mean, if you look at here, yeah, I'd probably, in fact, I would probably put it around the Hokkaido Consados Pro home. It's really good, and this is great to see, because New Balance, again, we were a bit down on them, but this almost single-handedly has me feeling better about them. Now, I think, you know, we have to consider the fact we've had quite a few counter tier shirts, so I'm going to stick them kind of around here. But if New Balance produce more like this, they're going to slide up the list. They're going to slide up the hot wall. Football Shirt Connoisseur, great to have you, mate. Long time no see indeed. It's good to be back streaming. We're going to be doing lots of streams this year, guys. I enjoyed it. It was such a... Honestly, it was one of my favourite bits of last year, was getting these streams really rolling. And I just love it. I love the interaction. And already today, I've just really enjoyed catching up with you, you all. But yeah, good to see you, Football Show Concert. I hope you're well. Yeah, Brock saying these Sagan Tosu colours are fun. I think these are great. I mean, you know, I look at that crest. It's essentially almost like a rainbow in there. It's such a funny crest as well with the team slogan. There's a lot going on. But anyway, great shirt. Yeah, good stuff from New Balance. We come to Portuguesa. Giza? My pronunciation is terrible. As we travel around the world with these shirts, I so often butcher these team names. This is an in-house brand, and we will rank the in-house brands, even though they're only going to have, of course, one club. Let's take a look at this shirt. Now, it does look cheap. You know, again, this is what you typically get from in-house brands. Looks like possibly full sublimation. Looking at, I thought that rooster was part of the shirt then. Yeah, the design is quite interesting. Honestly, you know, if you're gonna do something in house, you might as well use that creative license to do something creative or interesting, I should say. And you know, I like the little jock tag detail. Those things are often missed on shirts, but they really do elevate a shirt. And I must say, it's kind of almost like this kind of paisley design. I actually think the sleeves are what wins it for me. I say wins it. We're not talking Volcano here, but I actually think it's a surprising element. What I'd probably prefer to see is, you see the colours, you see these kind of the primary colours and the white there. If you could have little bits in the body of the shirt popping out in colour, not all of it, but a little bit, I think this would look a lot better. But I must say, again, we saw, like last year, there was a lot of shirts which were quite forgettable, particularly in Brazil. As these guys, I think they're Brazilian, aren't they? Yeah, and we saw a lot of shirts like this, which were basically quite bad. I actually think this is pretty good. It's lacking the quality of the higher tier shirts, but I'm pleasantly surprised. And that jock tag detail is really good. So I think we're talking high candle, very close to the Flames tier. Like, I think, again, as far as a kind of in-house brand kit, I think this is good. Like, I'd happily put it somewhere around. Yeah, I think somewhere around here feels good. And that does give us our first 1920 shirt. So we'll get them. Again, I need to actually. There we go. We'll stick them on our board, on our tier list. Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff from Portuguesa. Their third kit. That detail's pretty naff, but they've tried. Ian says it's moving away with some additional overprinting. Yeah, it is a bit like that. That's the thing. It has kind of similarity to some of those paisley designs we've seen. Those sleeves, it's a surprising choice, but I really do think that. Yeah, I don't know. I think it looks pretty good. It's certainly out there, but it's the third kit. You've got more license. Pretty happy with those. And just says I came across an old Portuguese kit a few years ago at a thrift store here in Boston. Apparently they were a low-level club in Sao Paulo. Yeah, I couldn't tell you much about them, but again, from memory, we saw these guys last year on the list, and the shirts weren't as good, but I might be wrong. Vélez Sarsfield, we already saw the excellent home shirt. This is the away, essentially flipped, and it feels even more Italian with the blue base. It's funny because, I mean, choose your colourway, isn't it? Whether you like this or the home. I think I probably would take the home, even though this is a bit more, it has more of an obvious Italy feel. I do really like it. I mean, it's a coin toss between the home or the away, and I would certainly say this is equally like high flames. Not going to be much behind the home at all. I said at the start of the episode that it's a bit of a kind of lesser done thing to have the same design for home and away shirts. And we've actually seen it a few times already today, so maybe I was overstating that. But yeah, I mean, Universitario, I think it's as good as that. I think, yeah, I'm going to stick it right behind, and that's not going to make much of a difference to Diodora's rankings. We'd maybe nudge them. I mean, if we go literally based on pixels, Diodora ahead of our rather unscientific ranking system there for the brands. But anyway, good stuff from Diodora. Let's nudge the shirt a bit higher. Yeah, there we go. That feels good. An excellent set of kits. Like the headline guys, Vélez Sarsfield. I mean, it's a close call between them and Hokkaido Consadole Sapporo. In terms of kind of home and away combos, I'd probably personally take the Consadole ones there. But it's great. It's such a fun tie. Look at the name set. And it's such an unashamed nod to the Italy shirts. Like they've copied the name set as well. But I like it. Alianza Lima. Now these guys, if I remember correctly, had a really interesting set of shirts last year with a wonderful inside net detail. I think it was them. I might be wrong. Sadly, we don't have that. And of course, we also have, this Nike template is a lot like, we've kind of seen it done already. And I think I'm certainly ready to move on from it. Adding more salt to the wound is the fact it's a black and gold shirt, which is such, like at this point, it's beyond a cliche. For what it's worth, I much prefer it with the sponsors, incidentally, despite, it's kind of odd having, this is the thing with this Nike template, with the top panel, you kind of cram a sponsor in there. You force the logos down, the crest and the swoosh down. This one, there's almost nothing to say about this one. It's literally, whereas the Alianza shirts last year had a really nice inside net detail, which just like pound for pound was one of my favorite. It sounds funny, but one of my favorite inside net details. This one doesn't have that. It doesn't even have anything. And I think in year 2 of this Nike template, what was already a bit of a controversial construction is even worse. So I hate to say it. And what's funny is this is our first Nike shirt of the year, at least in our rankings. So I'm going to put it down here. And again, it's hilarious. I say hilarious. Hilarious to someone as sad as me that Nike enter the board in dead last. Now, of course, we'd expect them to fly up these rankings, or at least go a bit higher. But I just can't say there's anything good about this shirt. Completely forgettable. Yeah, Andrew, on the back on the Vélez Sarsfield kit, saying it's like an Italy and Brescia shirt from the early 90s had a baby. It's exactly that, and it works, doesn't it? Yeah, so guys, again, Nike will be higher on this list, but if we're looking at this objectively, I would take any of these shirts over this one, even some of these shirts. I mean, I don't know. I think maybe I'm being a bit harsh, but I'm going to stick it up. And we'll come to a couple of Adidas shirts as we begin to close off. Yokohama F. Marinos. Now, last year's Yokohama shirt was excellent. Will the new shirts match that? I think the away is a bit too standard. I do like this cut of shirt, and again, I think this is, if not the same detail, very similar jock tag detail, which I really like with the umbrella. It's a silly little thing, but it honestly looks great. just as a jock tag detail. But going back to the shirt, from what I can see, it's just essentially a plain shirt. Although there is so there is some sort of pattern. I think that looks like is that the kind of this is a, well, this seems to be an aero ready shirt, so not the kind of heat ready which we've seen for the top tier Adidas shirts, but there does seem to be a pattern. I can't tell if that's a print or if it's a jacquard, but either way, yeah, completely fine, fairly forgettable, but at the same time the base Adidas template is improved this year. That contrast hem is a step up, and that is a good jock tag detail. So, you know, it is simple, but it is markedly better, I would say, than the Alianza Lima shirt, despite being so simple. So I think we're still looking at kind of counter tier and lower end of the counter tier. But, I mean, to be honest, I would take it over the Arsenal shirt. So when I look at it that way, would I take it? Again, it looks simple, but I'd probably have it around here. If we stick it here, that feels good. That will nudge Adidas a little bit higher. We'll go around there. That's good. Boxes, just wait till you get to the Napoli shirt. That better be dead last. Yeah, last time, I think, was it the Napoli Maradona shirt, which was also released around this time last year. That ends up falling off the edge of the wall, didn't it? Yeah. Well, we'll come on to that in a future week. Full shirt connoisseur says, I like the simple Nissan sponsor, reminds me of the 90s. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I didn't comment on Nissan. It is a strong sponsor. Like, having a big brand name, like, you know, a big car brand or food brand, personally, I don't think the novelty is lost on me. Like, I enjoy seeing that. Yeah, I've said it before to people. If you see like a high street brand, you could call it, it's great. Like, honestly, it looks good, and it does look good on the shirt. It does look good on the shirt. And Andrew, continuing this theme, says car brands seem to be the ideal sponsor. I can't think of a bad one off the top of my head. Honestly, I think I'd agree with you. I think whereas I like food brands, but they can look a bit kind of ugly. There's a good look at the pattern. I think that is part of the. Honestly, I think that is part of the fabric. You know what? I might be wrong, but that looks to be a jacquard, a woven pattern. That genuinely, I'm just going to say now, is going to bump this one right up. Because that, if you're going to do a pattern, do it like this. Now, this is, I think, a standard Adidas pattern that looks like the kind of Predator graphic, the Predator logo, and kind of Predator collection stuff. So I don't think it's bespoke to the team, but I mean, maybe I'm getting carried away, but I'm actually going to stick it right up here because I just really like that execution. And again, good news if you're an Adidas fan. We'll bump them up there. Yeah, that is the way to do it, and I hope more brands lean into this direction. Look at this very simple shirt, but having a jacquard pattern, like single-handedly, the jacquard pattern, the sponsor, we talked about that, and this detail, that ticks enough boxes for me. We come to the home, and it's funny. I feel like I should like the home more than I do. Don't get me wrong, I think it is good, but unless I'm missing it, we don't have that nice pattern in the jacquard. I think that is, that immediately makes you think more of the away, despite having a much more prominent design feature on this home. And it's kind of, that kind of flag-like element, a kind of racing stripe kind of style. It is good, and again, the Nissan sponsor, although it cuts up the stripe, it's fine. It's hard to kind of incorporate that. But it's funny, I'd actually would take the away over this, and not by much. I do think this is quite strong. It looks good in the photo there on the player or the model, whoever he is. No, I think this one, it's another very solid effort from Adidas. But again, whereas you can see how excited I got by the jacquard pattern on this, we don't have that, but it's still very good. I mean, the thing is, again, you've got that nice jock tag detail, and this doesn't reach the highest of last year's home shirt. I really did like that Yokohama F. Marinos home shirt from last year. I think it's as good as the away. I mean, to be honest, you could easily put it higher. I'm going to put it a bit lower, but that will bump up Adidas a bit. And as we end our stream, there's many, many shirts to go, guys. But Adidas kind of pulling up within the canon tier there. Yeah, Ian, if I was a Fulham fan, I'd happily wear that Yokohama shirt at the cottage. Honestly, and this is one thing I really try and kind of encourage in my content. People dismiss a shirt like that and say it's a plain shirt. It's a plain white shirt. This is a plain white screen. Let's get to the shirt. Gosh, is this my internet? I'm going to blame football shirt culture, but then again, we've had problems before here. It's still loading. I'm starting to think it is now going to hopefully my stream. Is my stream? Yeah, we're still live. Man, I was just about to make a really succinct point. There we go. People would say that's a plain white shirt. And there's a sense in which they're right. But honestly, and maybe, I'm overstating this, but when you see that pattern, it's what you want to see in a plain base. Like a subliminal pattern, a jacquard pattern. That is I'm expecting and hoping more brands go in this direction so that even a plain shirt, like I think, we can move from the pattern heavy era we've been in post Nigeria into these kind of plainer but more technologically advanced shirts. And it's funny because we're kind of going back to go forward. Like this sort of thing, of course, was quite common in the 90s. I wouldn't mind seeing more of it in the years to come. But guys, that's our tier list. And just a quick point of review with our new brand watch now. Obviously, it's early days, but I think this is just indicative of what we're going to see a lot this year. And that is the likes of Diodora, Mizuno, Marathon punching well above their weight. All three of these guys stood out from today's releases, or this episode's releases, I should say. Of course, there's much more to come. Nike, I would be amazed if Nike end up in the icecube tier. I don't think they will. Maybe they will. We'll see. But yeah, no. Overall, I'm really, really, really high on a few of these kits. None more so than Hokkaido Consadole Sapporo's away shirt. But there we go. Episode 1 is in the books. I want to say thank you once again. It's been such, it's been honestly really good just to be back streaming again. For these last couple of hours, your comments, your contributions have been really, really, really good. That's kind of what makes these episodes. If it was just me chatting to myself, it would get quite boring. But thank you for your comments. Thank you for your interactions. As we wrap up, any questions you have, fire them in the chat, and I can answer them in these last few minutes. Andy says, possible idea for football before it gets busy. A tally of how many off-white shirts you get this season. Yeah, that honestly, I do need to think about some sort of colour tally. That would be interesting. The one thing is, I'm not sure. I feel like I want to gradually iterate on the hot wall. I think the new brand feature for me is going to be a new focus. But certainly, if we did it officially, Andrew, it's one thing I'm always one thing last year I was doing, and what I want to do this year as well, is tracking trends, and I didn't really kind of I'm meaning to do a kind of summary. I never did that in the end. But anyway, yeah. As I say, that's a long way of saying I don't think I'll do that at this point, but I will be kind of keeping an unofficial record of that. Boxing, one of my favourite playing, but substitutes from the 2014 Switzerland away. Honestly, I can't think what that is off the top of my head. I'm going to Google that now before I pretend to remember what that one is. Switzerland away. So subtle, I forgot about it. 2014. Nice. There we go. The little crosses in the shirt. That's exactly it, Brock. That's exactly the kind of thing I like to see. Well, guys, that'll do it for this episode. If you have just tuned in, you can go and check the rest of the stream, I should say, and catch up with what we've been doing today. We've been ranking new releases from this year. We will probably be back again. I'll confirm, but most likely in 2 weeks' time. And we'll do a good maybe 3 to 4 hour stream, because again, I think as opposed to streams kind of weekly, we're going to be looking at maybe once every 2 weeks, so alternating. And then we'll do eBay next week, and then Hot Wall back the week after. But yeah, thank you, Football Shirt Connoisseur. See you around, mate. And indeed, everyone who's tuned in, it's been good fun. Don't forget, if you're not a subscriber and maybe you're watching this on catch up, maybe you've actually not tuned in live, but you're watching this just on your own time, please subscribe. It does make a big difference. And even though, you know, we've not had many videos recently on the channel, we're still here, we're still going, and we are going to be continuing to produce football show content for you all. So do subscribe. And there's even a Patreon, which again, there's a community which is quite active, and we're doing a lot of good stuff. There's exclusive Patreon giveaways and that sort of stuff. And a Phil's Corner shirt, a shirt I've designed in conjunction with Kit Locker, you get as a supporter at any tier. So check out the Patreon in the description. But yeah, thank you guys. I will see you very soon. I'll leave you on the outro scene. But yeah, I'll speak to you on Twitter, if not on here. If I don't speak to you before, have a good week, rest of your week and weekend, I should say. And yeah, all the best, and see you for another video. Take care.